What's up, everyone, and welcome to ClearTalk. So in this video, we're going to be talking about the president's announcement that was made a few days ago about the medical and science findings for our children around mostly around autism. And we're going to go over, I'm going to show you some of the video from that announcement. We'll talk about a couple of things that were said within it. I'm going to show some I'm going to refute or kind of like show you actual stuff that talks about this stuff that's actually from like the websites that the people behind him are supposed to represent. We're going to talk about this and have a more nuanced discussion around this whole topic, or in my point of view. Thank you very much for joining me. And if you are new here, welcome to ClearTalk. If you would like to check out more videos from the channel, please do so. Consider subscribing, like, share, all that good stuff. If you'd like to check out videos from my other channels as well, JMDPLAY, JMD Puzzling, do so as well there. Consider subscribing, like, sharing, and all that stuff on there. All of that helps out the channels, helps put the videos in front of people, and just helps me out, helps the JMD Nation out as a whole. So thank you very much for any help you can give there. You can also see that I've got a little blinker over there. For TikTok, if you are a TikTok person, I have a TikTok channel, and I just kind of toss videos and stuff over there from all the channels. Kind of, sort of, but anyways, if you want to get your JMD Nation videos there, then you can go there and check that out as well. There's also links and stuff for support for Patreon, whether it's ongoing or you have one-time donation links there. If you want to become part of JMD Nation, that'd be amazing, and any type of support you give is very much appreciated, and I thank you very, very much. And if you are returning, you are freaking awesome. You are. Thank you very much. Keep coming back. We love you here. Thank you. Thank you very much for coming. All right. So with all that out of the way, so we had a few days ago, and this was initially announced, if I'm not mistaken, at the memorial, right? That he was going to have this big announcement or whatever about with RFK and some other doctors, and about autism and stuff. And then I think it was the next morning, or maybe 2 days after. I think it was the next morning. They came out and had this announcement. All right, so, and to kind of quick summary, it was Tylenol bad. The one thing that we actually subscribe to pregnant women, and also our infants, as the safest thing that is medically subscribed for fever, pain, or whatever. That's bad. So what do? Tylenol, bad. Also, vaccines, bad. Split them up. Go take more visits to the doctor. Don't take them all at once. Don't let them come out there with this big ass injector and inject it all into your baby at one time, because that's a thing. And also, the only somewhat thing that I can say was good potentially out of this announcement was a possible medication that can be given for certain children with certain types of autism that can potentially help them, and that is leucovorin, I think, something like that. Leucovorin, whatever. That medication, I'm going to show some stuff on that. It does seem, there's been studies and stuff that does seem to help autism, certain autism children to have some kind of increase in verbal, different stuff like that, and some even mobile improvements. Although there's, it varies, and it's not like a cure-all. So, anyways, so we have, that's the short of it. That's the short of it. So if you want to stop there, then there you go. But I decided to look in a little bit deeper, especially some of these claims that have been made. Specifically, what I'm going to go around is what Trump says. Okay. Some of these so-called doctors, RFK gets up there and makes his argument, which is mostly around the autism medicine. All of these, Oz gets up there just talking about how he's going to help distribute it. Some others get up there, it kind of just backing up each other. There's not really any new information given after that. But and then some mothers get up there and talk about their experiences with their autism children, and thanking for all this. That's basically the gist of it. What I want to mainly go talk about, though, is Trump and how the way he is expressing and talking about this, and the fact that someone like him is getting the most mic time in how he is expressing, and seems to be completely either misinformed or confused, or doesn't quite understand the science behind any of this. And he's just being told something, and then he riffs with it. And it's just very, just really unprofessional. All right. So here we have, let me swap over. This is the first little section where he gets up. I'm not sure how much of this I'm going to play, but this is where he first kind of starts into talking about numbers and things like that. And then I'm also have a video of later when he gets up and he starts riffing again. And just let me just play.
The meteoric rise in autism is among the most alarming public health developments in history. There's never been anything like this. Just a few decades ago, 1 in 10,000 children had autism. So that's not a long time. And I've always heard, they say a few, but I think it's a lot less time than that. It used to be 1 in 20,000, then 1 in 10,000. And I would say that's probably 18 years ago. And now it's 1 in 31, but in some areas it's much worse than that, if you can believe it, 1 in 31. And I gave numbers yesterday. For boys, it's 1 in 12. I was told that's in California, where they have for some reason, a more severe problem. But whether it's 1 in 12 or 1 in 31, can you imagine? That's down from 1 in 20,000, then 1 in 10,000.
For starters, I'm not exactly sure where he's getting this 1 in 20,000, 1 in 10,000 thing. And he states that as if he even says it's about 18 years ago. For starters, that, and now it's 1 in 30, which he actually does get that number fairly right. Here is the data and statistics for autism spectrum. This is from the CDC, okay? This is prevalence of ASD. As of the studies from 2022, okay? This is a network percentage from, percentage of whatever, the range of people that's basically identified or have been I guess to some degree, described as having some sort of ASD. Okay. 2022, it is 1 in 31. All right. That's the argument there. It was reported by 16 different sites. And this is at the age of 8. So that's what they take this information from. So averaging anywhere between age of 4 and age of 8 is where most children are diagnosed. But this is, so children's births of 2014, 1 in 31. If you go all the way down here, the earliest in this is 2000. So this is children that were born around 1992, and it states 1 in 150. So yes, we do see an increase in the number of children being diagnosed with autism. Okay, since 2000. Now that's 12 years. 12 years. Even in 2000, though, it was only 1 in 150. 150. Now he says 18 years. Okay, so we're talking about 16 years before that. It went to it was 1 in 20,000, 1 in 10,000. I don't have or didn't find or see where records that go back into, or if there are any records that technically go back before that, because autism is a newer diagnosis. It's a more modern, newer diagnosis for, as a disorder for children and even in adults. So this is, and even if it is, even if you want to say, okay, yes, it was 1 in 20,000, 1 in 10,000. This kind of falls back to the idea where, like with the COVID stuff, and when Trump would say, we just need to stop checking for it. If we stop checking for it, then we'll see the numbers just drop. We'll see the numbers drop. We just got to stop checking for it. I mean, we're checking too much. We're checking too damn much. Let's just stop, and then the numbers will fall, and everything will be good. This is the mentality that this man has. So even if we argue that, okay, yes, those numbers are correct. They're absolutely correct. The argument I would have for that is that, well, what has happened is that we are getting, for starters, doctors are getting, you could say, better at diagnosing it, or just diagnosing it more often. Is being found more often because people are becoming more aware of it. And so they are, and more people are looking at their, parents are identifying these characteristics earlier on and more frequently than before. Right. So, and that's the case for a lot of things medically prescribed or found. Like, the more you become aware of it, the more parents and percentage of the population that are aware of something, any particular thing, they start to notice the signs in it. I mean, it's kind of this argument too that we kind of over-diagnose ourselves, but nevertheless, more parents are bringing their children to be checked for these types of things, and so it is being found more often. So more children are being identified with it, which therefore makes the numbers look like they're rising. It's not like this. We're just not necessarily. Is it that, oh, we're just having more and more kids get it or have it necessarily, but some percentage, and that's not to say that it all is the fact that we are just identifying it more, but that's the nuance that we're going to continue to talk about in this video, is that there are several different factors that come into the fact of You just can't look at the numbers and say, oh, this is growing and there's a problem and this is the problem and we need to fix it, or this is the solution. Like there's several different things that go into that. First off is the fact that it is being identified more, and the fact that the spectrum for autism is becoming larger. It's not just solely what you would necessarily think of with autism as children that have like extreme social characteristics that are or anxiety or social issues. Sometimes it's very like a mild case of autism, but that's also included in the whole spectrum. So the spectrum has grown, which also, when you broaden the spectrum for any kind of disorder or sickness, disease, or whatever we're talking about, you start to include more people into that umbrella. That's also a factor. But potentially, is there things that could contribute to this? Of course, there is possibility of things that are contributing to it. But as we were, go on, it's more than just the idea of, oh, this one thing is causing it or this one thing is causing it. You could potentially link things that that have some kind of data to support it could possibly be a contributing issue, but then there are other contributing issues as well, where we're talking about behavioral issues, as far as how we medicate or how our environmental issues. There are lots of different things that can contribute, potentially that haven't really even been completely explored yet when it comes to autism. So it's already kind of an issue that to just state that one or two things is the problem and we need to like stop doing it, or we need to change how we completely do this. Like it's kind of a premature argument and quite frankly a lazy argument to be had, which is what we're seeing from this announcement, in my opinion. So let me continue.
And now we're at the level of 1 in 12 in some cases for boys, 1 in 31 overall. So since 2000, autism rates have surged by much more than 400%. Instead of attacking those who ask questions, everyone should be grateful for those who are trying to get the answers to this complex situation. And the first day all of these great doctors behind me were there, I told them, this is what we have to find out. Because when you go from 20,000 to 10,000 and then you go to 12, there's something artificial. They're taking something. And by the way, I think I can say that there are certain groups of people that don't take vaccines and don't take any pills that have no autism. Does that tell you something? That's currently, is that a correct statement, by the way?
There are some studies that suggest that, yeah, with the Amish, for example.
The Amish, yeah, virtually. I heard none. See, Bobby wants to be very careful with what he says, and he should, but I'm not so careful with what I say. But you have certain groups, the Amish as an example.
This is my point. He states something. Oh, there are groups that, don't take these things or don't do these things, and there are literally no signs of autism in it. Absolutely no signs of autism. And he turns around and goes, "Is that a correct statement to make?" And then you have RFK going, well, there are some, studies that kind of, come to somewhat of a conclusion like that. Like an example, the Amish. And he said, yes, the Amish, they don't have any of this going on. I would argue that the Amish are notorious for not medical. They have practices against like not any kind of medical interference, like modern day medicine interference. So this goes back to the you can't, like, if it's not identified whatsoever, then I mean, clearly yes, it would look like you don't have it because they haven't been identified as having it. So that it's a very lazy argument to say, well, the Amish, they don't have any autism because, technically they haven't been identified to have any. So therefore their practices that they do means that that's the way we should be living, or that's the way we should be doing. So, it's just a lazy argument all around. It's the same argument that RFK makes later when saying that because against the argument that I introduced a minute ago, where I said that the more we identify it, or the more aware we become of it, and the more we are examining for this condition, the numbers will kind of naturally rise because more people are aware of it and it's becoming more prevalent to check for. He makes the argument that that's not the case because you don't see that in older individuals. RFK tried to make the argument you don't see that in older individuals. You don't see that in people my age, he claimed. You just don't see autism, when that is actually not the case. That's absolutely not the case, because we have from the NIH itself people living with autism not knowing that they're living in autism, and that there's increasingly that adults over the age of 50 are receiving diagnosis of autism spectrum condition. Because this is something that did not get checked for before. And they've very likely been living their entire life with it, to some spectrum of it. Now, we could have a discussion around what is the severity percentage around people in older ages versus younger ages. Are we seeing where, yes, it may have like a percentage of older individuals had, say, a milder, prevalence of autism, condition, versus younger children having we were seeing more severe cases in the younger generations. Okay, we can have a discussion there, but to absolutely argue that it was never that, people at a certain age, you don't see it, and so therefore it didn't exist, and now it exists, so there's clearly some kind of, explanation for this, and it has to be this or that. That's just a very lazy argument. Anytime you ever argue that something didn't exist at some point, that's like the argument of, trans people didn't exist at some point, or gay people didn't exist at some point, because we're just seeing it now. They're just coming out now. They're just coming out all over the place, and so it's an epidemic. It's such bullshit. This has been stuff like this. We didn't know about certain things in the medical field, or diagnose things in the medical field until science became better at identifying things. We became more scientifically, knowledgeable in certain. We used to identify certain conditions as witchhood and stuff like that when it was actually, just somebody being sick, or we used to treat things with sicknesses with stuff that had nothing to do, or would never even potentially heal stuff, because they thought it was one thing and it wasn't. It was another. It's just a very stupid, lazy argument. Let's continue.
They have essentially no autism. First, effective immediately, the FDA will be notifying physicians that the use of let's see how we say that. Acetaminophen.
You can't even say
okay?
acetaminophen.
Which is basically commonly known as Tylenol.
Did they not have him practice this before going up there? Why? I don't. And you'll see that he doesn't try to say it really after this. He just says Tylenol. He even makes a big deal about it when he comes back up to the mic later. That they keep saying, I just want to make clear that it's Tylenol. That's what it is. It's Tylenol. We keep hearing the A word, all throughout this with all the other people, but I'm just saying it's Tylenol. It's oh my gosh. Okay.
During pregnancy can be associated with a very increased risk of autism. So taking Tylenol is not good. All right, I'll say it. It's not good. For this reason, they are strongly recommending that women limit Tylenol use during pregnancy unless medically necessary. That's, for instance, in cases of extremely high fever, that you feel you can't tough it out, you can't do it. I guess there's that. It's a small number of cases, I think. But if you can't tough it out, if you can't do it, that's what you're going to have to do. You'll take a Tylenol, but it'll be very sparingly. It can be something that's very dangerous to the woman's health.
So he's basically stating that we're recommending, that you be sparing with how you take Tylenol as a pregnant woman. Here's the thing. That's already the practice for starters. It's already practiced that you take it sparingly. Most doctors will, even when they do prescribe it, it's only for certain, stuff. It's, you already, limit the amount that you take the minimal that you can, and only take it, if it's just absolutely necessary. That's already the practice for starters. But what he keeps pushing constantly is to reduce it even more. Like, if he'll keep saying over and over again, you just got to tough it out. You just got to tough it out. And which is hilarious for this man who's never had to worry about a thing in his fucking life, is trying to tell pregnant women all across America, that you're just gonna have to tough it out. You're gonna have to tough it out during the part of their life that is probably the most physically stressful and painful than anything he himself has probably ever experienced. He's trying to say, just tough it out. Just tough it out. This is what you got to do. You just got to tough it out. Only take it if you're about to die. I mean, it's just ridiculous. But anyway, let's continue.
In other words, a fever that's very, very dangerous, and ideally a doctor's decision, because I think you shouldn't take it. And you shouldn't take it during the entire pregnancy. They may tell you that toward the end of the pregnancy, you shouldn't take it during the entire. And you shouldn't give the child the Tylenol every time he's born and he goes and has a shot. You shouldn't give a Tylenol to that child. All pregnant women should talk to their doctors for more information about limiting the use of this medication while pregnant. So ideally, you don't take it at all. But if you can't tough it out, if there's a problem, you're going to end up doing it. The other thing that I can tell you that I'll say that they will maybe say at a little bit later date, but I think when you go for the shot, you do it over a 5-time period. Take it over 5 times or 4 times, but you take it in smaller doses and you spread it out over a period of years. And they pump so much stuff into those beautiful little babies. It's a disgrace. I don't see it. I think it's very bad. They're pumping, it looks like they're pumping into a horse. You have a little fragile child, and you get a vat of 80 different vaccines, I guess, 80 different blends, and they pump it in.
Yeah, if you didn't understand what he was talking about when he was talking about pumping babies full of horse doses or whatever, he was talking about vaccines. Just spread it out over 3, 4, 5, and he'll say this when he gets back up there. He goes over this. It is nauseating how many times he repeated himself at the end of this, saying the same shit over and over again. But this is what he keeps trying to push for, spreading it out. Don't take it all in one time. Don't juice yourself with that big ass tube of vaccine that they're going to try to give you 80 different vaccines all at one fucking time. They're just trying to pump you with these horse cartridges of liquids. They're just pumping. For starters, I want to go ahead and discuss this. For starters, it is not pumped all at once, all right? And he will go into also talking about MMRs and all this different stuff. Let's just go on the 80 vaccination thing. He says it's 70-something to 80-something vaccinations or whatever. Okay, that number is extremely exaggerated, and that's like including stuff like influenza and stuff that is given like annually every year, like up to the age of 18. Okay, like all the vaccinations or stuff that you could potentially take up to the up to the age of 18. Okay, just influenza alone, if it's given at 6 months, like even this chart like diagnosed, like saying 1 to 2 doses annually. Okay, I mean, we're talking about up to, what is this? Here, 7 years old, 1 to 2 doses. Okay, 7 years from 6 months. We're talking about, that's 14 doses. Potentially. And then, of course, from 7 to 18 years, 1 annual dose of influenza. So now we're, 7 to 18, that's 10 more years. So 10, 4, that's 24. That's 24 of that 70-something right there. Just an influenza, okay? All right, but that's also including all other potential vaccinations or stuff that most kids actually don't even go through. It's in special kind of situations, whether or not it's due to travel or, internationally to somewhere that might, there might be a concern for something. When you look at this, okay, and you count up all of the, let me get my marker. You count up all of the different ones here that, absolute max, like baseline could be, okay, is 1, 2, 3. There's 5 here. That's 7. 5 more is 12. Okay. Then 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24. Okay. This is a part of this. This is a part of this. So this is 25. This is a part of this. So this is 26. This 27, 28. Here's is a new one, 29. This is another one, 30, 31. Okay? So that's 31. That's dosage over 16 years. Over 16 years. And some of these probably aren't, once you get over a certain age, a lot of times it's not even like enforced to take, and some of this stuff is probably not taken. Now, maybe up to the age of 4 and 6, all this stuff is, because some school systems and stuff require certain ones to be taken. But it's not 80. And a lot of this is just extra doses of it. But it's spread over years. It's not that it's injected all at one time. A lot of this stuff is, because you say, go back every, make it might be inconvenient, but just, spread it out over 2 or 3 years or whatever. Most of this is spread out over the first 2 years. You go and you get dose here and there or whatever. It's the first 2 years. on most of this. Some of it, of course, then we have our big ones right before school that you go in and get additional doses for, or new doses for. It's being a bit overplayed that we are just like injecting these massive amounts of stuff in our kids. Yes, they are getting doses, and yes, you could choose. It's not like to certain. It's not even like it's being forced on everybody. Yes, certain school districts do force it, and if you want your child in that school district, then I mean, and they have the right to force it if they want to. If you don't want to, then you just either send them to another school or homeschool them or whatever. If you don't, if you don't agree with it, but we're not just like straight up pumping them. And then he goes on, and I might show a part of the clip, but he goes on to talk about like hepatitis B, stating it being a sexually transmitted disease. And so why are we giving it to our kids? Why are we giving it to our babies? It shouldn't be given until like the age of 12. That's what he states. Hepatitis B is a sexually transmitted thing, so we shouldn't be giving babies, because it's not like babies are out here having sex. So why are we giving it to them? When you look up hepatitis B, it states clearly, hepatitis B can be, yes, it can be transmitted and is more likely transmitted, especially amongst adults, through sex, blood, and bodily fluids. But that also can include saliva. But a lot of times, hepatitis B for children, for babies, is actually transmitted during the pregnancy, like during the delivery, especially if the parent has hepatitis, or anybody that potentially might handle that baby. If that baby is around anybody at any kind of point that might have hepatitis, maybe knowingly or unknowingly, they can contract it. It's not simply through sex. It's just absolutely ignorant for him to make this type of statement and to say, oh, we just shouldn't, have it until like the age of 12. Like he's deciding, 12 is when kids have sex. So, or potentially will, come across somebody trying to have sex with them. So like that even itself is telling and odd, in my opinion. But it's just an absolutely horrible argument to be made. And then he goes on to state like MMRs. He goes over and over again that we shouldn't, you're putting it all together. They're injecting it all at one time. It needs to be separated out. They've already separated out chickenpox, because chickenpox is this one right here, the VRA. Okay. They've already separated out chickenpox because they realized that one needed to be given by itself, and you need to do it with the rest of them too, which MMR, if you don't know, is measles, mumps, and rubella. Okay. And well, this is all, it's not that they have just recently separated this out. It was already separated out. You can either get MMR or you can get MMRV, which includes the chickenpox. It's not like it was always forced for you to do it all at one time. It's like a chickenpox was like a choice to get it or not get it, because, but nevertheless, there have been no studies. I mean, no study that there have been multiple studies. Let me put it this way. There have been multiple studies done on the effect or like the safety around MMR or even MMRV vaccines that in relation to autism, because that's where he was trying to connect it, is that putting it all together is causing autism. And there's no evidence for that whatsoever, that MMR vaccines, putting these together, have any kind of link to autism. And that has been like studied very deeply. But anyways, let's continue.
So ideally, a woman won't take Tylenol, And on the vaccines, it would be good instead of one visit where they pump the baby, load it up with stuff. You'll do it over a period of 4 times or 5 times. I've been so into this issue for so many years just
He's
because
been
I
so
couldn't
into this
understand
issue. He's been
how a
so
thing like
worried
this
about
could happen. And it's artificially induced. It's not like something that when you go from all of those, healthy babies to a point where I don't even know structurally if a country can afford it. And that's the least of the problems. To have families destroyed over this is just so terrible.
All right. And it's you can tell just how uncomfortable, especially RFK is, which, I don't care for him anyway, but it's so odd. This one here is him coming back later after everybody else has had their say. And this is how he continues. And I'm going to go ahead and watch this lady. I'm going to have to say something. It's very, all of them actually, but she's the one that you see for the most part.
So I just want to say acetaminophen is basically Tylenol, essentially.
He states that out.
That term is used throughout this conference. So it's essentially Tylenol. And I just recommend strongly that you don't use Tylenol unless it's absolutely necessary. I understand it's maybe 10% of the women that are pregnant are, would perhaps be forced to use it.
See, I'm just going to listen to what he says, but keep an eye here on this woman in her face, her mouth, and looking at him. I swear he goes on for another. He goes on like a full 10-minute rant here, and I don't think she changes whatsoever.
And that would mean you just can't tough it out. No matter what you do, you can't tough it out. So that's up to you and your doctor. But there's a very strong recommendation, maybe stronger from me than from the group because they're waiting for certain studies. I just want to say, I want to say it like it is. Don't take Tylenol. Don't take it. If you just can't, it's just fight like hell not to take it. There may be a point where you have to, and that you have to work out with yourself. So don't take Tylenol. Other things that we recommend, or certainly I do anyway, is, and it's so important to me to see the doctor 4 times or 5 times for a vaccine. Don't let them pump your baby up with the largest pile of stuff you've ever seen in your life going into the delicate little body of a baby. Even if it's 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, you just break it up into, I would say 5, but let's say 4 visits to the doctor instead of 1. And certain things I think you should do. We've already taken.
This guy literally thinks that we take one visit to the doctor and just pump it all in at one time. That's what he actually thinks. He's completely clueless to how this operation, this process works. And you've got all these people around him just staring at him. This woman right here just stares at him with this fucking smile look on her face. Doesn't in any way change that look for 10 minutes, damn near. Just letting him spew just complete nonsense. RFK has this stupid look pretty much the whole time, looking forward. He does a little bit of these, and then you'll see later on when it pans out, every one of these people, RFK is the only one that actually isn't looking at Trump, but every one of them is just staring at him the entire damn time, pretty much. Just listening to this nonsense. But they're standing there like they just completely okay with it and have seen no problem in what's being said.
Taken out and are in the process of taking out mercury and aluminum now. You know what mercury is. You know what aluminum is. Who the hell wants that pumped into a body?
Oh, that was the other thing. I completely forgot about that one. aluminum and mercury. He brings this up about aluminum and mercury being used in vaccines, and now why are we pumping metals in there? I'm not in. Why would I inject myself with metal? I'm not sitting here trying to inject myself with steel or why we're not metal. We don't put metals. Why would we do that? And that potentially aluminum and mercury is we're just seeing these crazy things being put in vaccines, and so they're we're going to try to get them out. Mercury is used, from what I read and understand, mercury was used as a type of preservative for the vaccine to keep, and it's a very, very low amount of it. There's been study, and they act like there's been no studies, like this has just suddenly come up. He acts like there's no studies been done on this, and it's just like a new thing that we just found out about, and we're trying to get them out of there. There's been, again, studies done like crazy on the safety of aluminum and mercury being used in vaccines and the purposes that they're used for, and whether or not they're safe or dangerous. And over and over again has been found that they are safe to be used at the levels that they're being used for and what they're being used for. Mercury, like I said, has been used as a preservative. It's a very low amount. The study's been shown over and over again that the amount that any child at any stage after taking a vaccine of any kind of excessive amount of mercury because of the mercury in the vaccine is it's non-existent. There's a very low levels, safe levels, and it's, like I said, used to preserve it. Aluminum is used as an additive that helps assist the body in absorbing that the vaccine to prolong and allow it to be better absorbed by the body and make it basically more effective. That's the way I concluded from it. And because some people I think have falsely stated that it was also a preservative, and it's not, but it is used as to help the body, which in turn, aluminum being used for that reason has allowed for less vaccines or doses having to be taken because the body is absorbing more of it per dose. Now, you could argue or make an argument that might not be good for certain people or not. I mean, because maybe the absorption of it in one person, being more might affect them in a negative way versus another, and that can be a good argument. But that's what it was being used for. But it was being, and of course, also they're being used at safe levels. Now, I'm not a doctor. I don't completely know all the science behind that, but I'm just letting you know that that's these studies and what it was being used for. It's not like it's just something that we just found in them and we don't even know why we're having them in them, so we're just taking them out. Furthermore, mercury has also because of the confusion or the concerns from certain groups, like these types of groups or whatever. The concern of it being in vaccines, mercury has been removed or reduced in a lot of vaccines that it was used in over the past decade. Because even though there was no found evidence that it was unsafe or that it caused any kind of correlation to autism or anything else, it has actually just been reduced as a preservative. And so, I mean, this is still, it's just something it's kind of an argument being made for something that's really not a problem. Anyways, all right.
And there were rumors about both of them for a long time. But
and that was one thing he brought that up as a rumor. He doesn't even have any evidence or anything. He brought up the aluminum and mercury as a rumor that he heard, and he just wanted to talk about it. That was so unprofessional in my opinion.
We're having them taken out of the vaccines. Hepatitis B, again, that's sexually transmitted. And we think you should wait. I think you should wait till 12. You know, I'm making these statements from me. I'm not making them from these doctors, because when they talk about, different results, different studies, I talk about a lot of common sense. And
so this is what he says. The doctors may say something else. I'm just telling from way. I'm not talking for them. I'm talking for me. And they will say something. They might say something else, and they have to. But I'm saying it because of common sense. I'm going to give you common sense. They might not say stuff and it's not common sense, but I'm common sense. I'm just the reason why I'm saying these things, because it's just common sense. It's something that we all just we just know, and I just know. I just have a good feeling about it. I feel it.
And they have that too. A lot. But I recommend the hepatitis B. Take it at 12. Sexually transmitted. You don't have to give it to the baby when the baby's 2 years old. And there are a lot of theories on that, but not when they're 12. Doesn't seem to be a problem at all. The MMR and the chickenpox. Chickenpox has already been broken out. It's a singular shot, but the MMR is not. And I've heard for years that there's a problem with it, but they say that there's no problem if you do each
No, they say there's no problem if you just take
not
it.
put together. So an MMR, go out and do it separately. Don't take Tylenol. Don't give Tylenol to the baby after the baby's born. Every time the baby gets a shot, gets a shot. They say, here, take a cup of Tylenol. I've heard that for years. Take Tylenol.
He said, take a couple of Tylenol, as if we're pumping Tylenol pills in babies' mouths, for starters. You just don't give them any Tylenol if after a shot, because they're freaking hurting potentially and screaming and crying. No, just deal with that. Don't give them any Tylenol, and even the smallest amount that can kind of soothe the pain so that they don't feel that pain. No, let's let the baby feel pain, because Tylenol might be causing them autism. I mean, it's bruh.
Don't take Tylenol. Don't have your baby take Tylenol. Now, Tylenol is fine for people that aren't pregnant, that aren't in the situation that we're talking about. One very specific situation. If you're pregnant, don't take Tylenol. When you have your baby, don't give your baby Tylenol at all, unless it's absolutely necessary. Don't do it. Break up your visits to the doctors. Break them up. Do it in 5 if you can.
He keeps repeating himself.
Inconvenient.
He repeats himself 2 or 3 times.
No, you gotta have to go
this
back.
is I don't think I can even subject y'all to anymore.
4 years, 5
like it is
years,
just insane. He just repeats this 2 or 3 times. He gets like more aggressive every time.
It's too much liquid. Too many different things are going into that baby at too big a number. The size of this thing, when you look at
the size of it. It's so
like
fucking massive. 80 vaccines in one tube.
And 80.
They come out. It looks like a big ass, plunger or something. They're just shoving it in their baby.
A woman who worked for me, a beautiful, wonderful woman.
Like I said, this goes on. You can see. I can, as a forward, this woman does not. It amazed me. I kept getting hilarious. Like, I found it hilarious. And then these are all like just steadily staring at him. This guy even rolled his eyes about one thing at one point. But I mean, this goes on and on and on. The one thing, like I said, this is the end. I'm going to try to finish this out. I know this is a long video. The one thing that they did talk about that actually is potentially a really good thing is the leucovorin as a treatment for some autistic children. This is being said because they have found that sorry, that folate deficiency in autism, cerebral folate, which is like a vitamin chemical like the body produces or whatever, that helps with other types of chemicals and stuff, that like the induction of like serotonin and other things that we that push us to interact and with our verbal or or movement skills and things like that, or social like deficiency in this. And I'm not a scientist. I'm probably fucking this all up, but the idea is that there's a deficiency of this that is found oftentimes in certain autistic children or individuals, that where it's either the body is blocking it to some degree and forcing it in different directions or different things, and it's causing, anyway, this medication helps to which is a form of vitamin B called folinic acid. It helps to block that certain, like it creates a blocker, or either unblocks the block, one or the other, to help this folate deficiency, to relieve that efficiency and allow for some children or whatever to express their language a little bit better. They've seen positive tests, whatever, where children have become more expressive through language, or even more expressive through their motor skills or something like that, from taking this medication. So this is the article here. This was from Forbes. You can go read it for more like stuff, because I don't want to just like completely go over all of this. But it shows how it works with the brain, and why this has been studied, what benefits it might have, this, if is it safe or whatever, and things like that. And for what I can have, I read over this entire thing. From what I could tell, it is relatively safe. It is early in the like testing for it, specifically for autism, but they have seen good benefits in it. But like I said, it's only in certain, certain forms, or well, it's in autism that is related to the folate deficiency, basically. In which has to have tests done to be able to identify whether or not someone that has autism diagnosis or whatever, to what why, if they have this deficiency or not. And if they do, then this medication might help assist them. It is not a cure for all. It just and it's like it helps the most with children who have the worst conditions, I guess you could say. I'm trying to be careful with how I state things, but anyway, that's the only thing that I think actually really was good and come out from this. But the whole, taking, vaccines all in one huge ass thing is not what is a practice. Vaccines are given out over multiple months, separated out over multiple doses a lot of times. Certain ones are only given for certain situations. It's not 80 of them all at once in a horse injection. MMR is not in any way that I've seen connected to autism or unsafe to be taken. The idea that older people do not have autism is false. It is becoming more and more prevalent for them to be diagnosed with it, even over the age of 50. And just because we are seeing, autism at higher numbers now does not mean that I mean, it is a concern that, like what factors may be contributing to this more, or just altogether, what could be contributing to it, period, and whether or not we can reduce that and what measures would be taken to reduce that. And that's the reason why the research should continue. But this whole argument around Tylenol and stuff like that is just ridiculous. And I know this is a long video, but I did say that I was going to go over this, and I'm going to let this guy speak for what, he kind of sums it all up and brings it together from a more medical standpoint. I just said, I'm not endorsing this guy by any means or anything. I've seen some of his videos or portions of his videos before. I'm not saying whether or not I agree in any kind of way with anything he has said in any of his videos, but where he states out here specifically about this conference, about this announcement, just makes sense to me from a medical standpoint, in understanding the nuances behind what is being talked about here, in that it was irresponsible for Trump and someone like RFK and Oz and others to talk about this stuff that they talked about in this in the way that they did. So I'm going to come play.
Since RFK Jr. and President Trump held a press conference on Tylenol and autism, my cell phone exploded with tweets, emails, and messages asking for me to uncover the truth. Interestingly enough, I was actually working on a video for a new Truth or Scare episode on the association between Tylenol and autism. Now, I wanted to come into this video very level-headed, relaxed, just to talk about the facts, cover what was wrong, cover what was right, but this press conference was just so bad. So full of inaccuracies, lies, judgment. It literally depressed me to see how far we've fallen. I've said that the information I present on this channel is not political, it's clinical. But what I really meant was that it isn't partisan. For the last few years, partisan politics have destroyed our credibility as healthcare professionals. Truth and facts have progressively become devalued in comparison to winning. And before your mind goes there, this isn't a left or right thing either. Whether it was President Biden announcing boosters before the CDC and FDA even approved them, or President Trump pushing hydroxychloroquine as a game changer while his own NIH rushed to fact check him. Even Vice President Kamala Harris has played this game, claiming she would not get Trump's vaccine, only to get it several months later. The problem is just universal. And now with this autism press conference, we've sunk to an all-time low. It's no longer political theater, but more like a partisan soap opera. Listening to the words Trump uses in this one single press conference. Whether you're liberal or conservative, it's truly abysmal. I don't mean this from a political correctness standpoint. I mean this from a scientific communication standpoint.
And by the way, I think I could say that there are certain groups of people that don't take vaccines and don't take any pills that have no autism, Is that a correct statement, by the way? See, Bobby wants to be very careful with what he says, and he should, but I'm not so careful with what I say.
Imagine your own doctor repeating those lines to you.
Exactly.
This is based on what I feel.
Scientific press conferences are not supposed to be about how you feel. It's not even about how experts feel. It's about what the evidence shows and to what level it shows it.
Exactly.
I'm not a doctor, but I'm giving my opinion.
This literally reminds me of one of those stupid shirts at Spencer's that say, "I'm not a doctor, but I'll take a look." This isn't comedy. This is what folks will use to make their health decisions.
Exactly.
Some of the press conference is even uncomfortable to listen to. Look, I point out that political correctness can stifle speech that could perhaps give us a better understanding of reality. In fact, I've even been called fatphobic and have had to defend myself for encouraging weight loss in those who are obese. But the way the president discusses these topics, it's just gross.
Like an Ozempic, or I call it the fat pill or the fat drug. Sometimes it works, I guess, for people. The ones I've seen, it hasn't worked so well. I got a lot of friends, they're fat, They said, yeah, I lost some weight. I said, you don't look it to me.
We've blurred the reality between podcast
I
hosts
didn't even
who
share that
straddle the
because I
line
knew it
between
was in this,
comedy and
but-
politics with a president who makes jokes at the expense of accuracy and others' well-being. But let's get to the science. Throughout this press conference, President Trump repeatedly says,
Don't take Tylenol. There's no downside. Don't take it. You'll be uncomfortable. It won't be as easy, maybe, but don't take it. If you're pregnant, don't take Tylenol, and don't give it to the baby after the baby is born.
well, as a board-certified, actively practicing physician who's been in practice over 10 years, he's flat out wrong. In healthcare, every decision has consequences. Taking or not taking a medication both carry sets of benefits and harms. That's because medications, therapy, surgeries all have biological, psychological, and even social implications and trade-offs. And what's even more interesting is that those benefits and harms will be drastically different depending on which individual we're discussing. All this is to show that I'm not making an appeal to authority argument here, saying that Trump isn't a doctor, so he must be wrong. I'm actually saying he's wrong because he's wrong. If he was a doctor, he would know that not treating a fever, especially early in pregnancy, can carry serious risks. Elevated temperatures from untreated fever, even hot tubs or saunas, are consistently associated with higher neural tube defect risks in the fetus. This has even been applied to other parts of development, including increases in congenital heart defects and orofacial deformities. So no, we don't just give Tylenol for comfort during pregnancy.
There's no downside, other than a mother will have to, as I say, tough it out a little bit. There's no downside to doing this. It's not like, oh, if you do this, you're going to die. There's no downside.
His tone about toughening up is not just judgmental, but inaccurate. What's ironic, the topic of lowering fevers is uniquely interesting to me because I've long discussed that we need to decrease this obsession that we have of routinely lowering a fever. So often a patient of mine says, I've been taking Tylenol around the clock to lower and control my fever. But that's not always necessary. A fever could be a good thing, but some can be problematic and are not okay. That's the nuance that's necessary. Trump also proudly highlighted how his team has cracked the code for why autism rates have increased in the US. He blamed it on two things, sort of. And I say sort of because he's not the clearest communicator, especially when it comes to statistics.
And you know, we have something else called favored nations where I'm going to be reducing drug prices by 1,000%.
Trump implies over and over that Tylenol causes autism. And his director of the FDA quite literally said that on Fox News later that night.
Well, I'll tell you, the biggest study was done by Harvard and Mount Sinai. They looked at 27 studies showing an association. There were 4 against it, and they said, based on the overwhelming body of evidence, there was a causal relationship. Those are the exact words of the dean of the Harvard School of Public Health.
On the surface, I realize that sounds terrifying. Tylenol is our go-to option for pain and fever in pregnancy because NSAIDs like ibuprofen and aspirin have well-proven risks. It's literally on the safe medication list that I give to my patients in the OB clinic. Here's the interesting twist. Their claim isn't totally made up. I pointed out earlier, I was literally working on a video on this exact subject. For years, researchers have studied the possible links between acetaminophen and autism, ADHD, and other developmental conditions. Some of those studies do show associations, and some show biological plausibility, especially in animal models, which means that it is possible that Tylenol may play a role in autism development. But when someone like RFK Jr. cherry picks that data to support his pre-made conclusion, it can be sold to sound very convincing. That's the big problem here. The data should lead to the story. But if you already know the story, you made it up in your head, you're not doing the science, you're doing marketing, or in this case, politics. Consistently, this administration misses the cornerstone of scientific research. Correlation does not equal causation. There's a lot to unpack in many of these studies. There's many variables and confounders at play. Just think about it. Who takes Tylenol? Those who have fevers or pain, basically people who are sick. Perhaps the association of sickness is stronger than the association of Tylenol use. Did RFK Jr. bother to even check? Anyway, let's zoom out and look at some real information. In 2021, over 90 scientists signed a statement that pregnant women should be cautious with Tylenol. Not to stop it, not to ban it, just to be cautious. Which really, I feel like that should always be the case with medications. Fast forward, the biggest study came out this year in Sweden, not in the US, looking at over 2 million children. When they compared siblings, one who was exposed to Tylenol, one not, boom, no increased autism risk. That's really powerful because siblings share genetics, environment, and parental health habits. So if Tylenol was truly to blame, you'd expect a signal there, but it wasn't. Other big studies since then, same story. Maybe a slight association, but when you control for confounders like genetics, illnesses, and environmental exposures, it mostly evaporates. How about the fact that the use of Tylenol during pregnancy has gone down or stayed stagnant in recent decades, yet autism rates continue to grow? Less Tylenol, more autism. Doesn't make sense. Translation, the Tylenol autism link is not proven. Now here's where I get frustrated. Trump, RFK Jr., and the rest of the administration presented this like a settled fact when it's obviously not. Even the author from the Harvard School of Public Health, who was misquoted, by the way, by Dr. McCary, clearly said further research is needed to confirm the association and determine causality. He sent that in his message to Trump's team before the press conference. Now, there's a world of a difference between there might be a risk here that's worth studying and this definitively causes autism. When you nix nuance and mix that messaging with partisan politics, people lose trust in us, actual doctors. It also pushes some to avoid Tylenol when they really need it. Will people actually get hurt as a result of this press conference? Sure. I actually don't think that's unreasonable to expect. Truly, this is part of a bigger pattern. RFK Jr. and other politicians have built their careers on overstating scientific uncertainty, especially with autism. First vaccines, now Tylenol. Same playbook. Highlight just enough data to sound convincing, then exaggerate the conclusions. And Trump? Well, he's seizing on that to look like he's saving the day by taking on big pharma or small pharma, over-the-counter pharma, even if it means twisting the science. It plays well to score political points, but it's a disaster for pregnant patients who need honest, balanced guidance. It's even a bigger disaster for us who actually want to find the actual reason for the increased autism rates. RFK earlier this year said he'd find the cause of autism by September. And when he obviously didn't find it, he just chose an explanation that might fit. So if you're watching this and you're pregnant or planning to be, what do? First, stay alert, not anxious. Nothing in the newest research proves Tylenol causes autism. And if it does, I promise I'll be there to make that announcement. Second, keep using the rule we've always relied on. Lowest dose, shortest duration, only when the benefits outweigh the harms. Third, if you have questions, don't hesitate to talk to your family medicine or OB doctor, because the proven risks of untreated fever, migraines, or severe pain can outweigh the theoretical risks of Tylenol. Science certainly evolves, but right now, the balance of evidence, even the author of the study used by RFK Jr., says Tylenol is safe enough for occasional use in pregnancy when necessary. The association truly becomes strongest after 4 weeks or even longer of use. Trump and RFK took a complicated, unsettled area of research and oversimplified it into a scary narrative for their own benefit. That's not helping anyone. If you want a deeper look into who...
All right. So yeah, like I said, I'm not endorsing this particular guy in any kind of way. If you may have come across him, you may not like him, you may not think he's right about certain things in his videos. I do not know. And that's not what I'm saying here. What I'm saying is that in this particular video where he's discussing the nuances that were discussed in that announcement by Trump, RFK, and the rest, was ill-founded, it was misguided, and could potentially cause some very, more issues, and potentially people, having some negative or taking that information and making decisions based on that information that was misguided and ill-advised or just flat out wrong, and that would cause more problems. Like I said, for like he stated, if you have concerns, talk with your doctors. Make sure, whether it's good for you or not. It's an individual basis kind of thing, and what's going on with you and your pregnancy or your, child or whatever. This announcement, this discussion, broadcasted by them was just absolutely messed up, in my opinion, in all the wrong ways. But honestly, I don't expect any less from Trump and his administration, from the kooks that he has in Washington, the people that he's put in place over these different agencies and stuff. They are there for a reason, and it's not to benefit you. But anyways, hope that you enjoyed that. I know this was a very long video, but hopefully you got something out of that, a better understanding of this stuff. I may not have been the best in explaining certain things. If you dig deeper, look into it yourself, read the stuff for yourself. If you don't believe me, I'm not ever asking somebody to straight up believe me. Go find it out for yourself. But that's the point. Is I took what they said, I looked it up, and then I come to my conclusion on what they said based on what evidence I'm seeing when I look it up, even from the own websites of the people that were supposed to represent those websites up there behind Trump. Anyways. Thank you very much for joining me. And until next time, let me know what you think about this whole thing. Until next time, though, peace, clear talk with love. I'm out.